All right. So, last few videos I was talking about folks, talking about their foolishness, and now it's my turn to talk about my foolishness. I'm an equal opportunity player. You know what I'm saying? What's good for them, what's good for the goose, is good for the gander. I done talked about them, now I'm about to talk about my screw ups, because I messed up. And again, I'm sharing this stuff with you so you don't make these same mistakes and so you can be better prepared than I was. So, with that said, now unfortunately I'm in the rain. Got caught up in this rain and the store closed, so we got to go. I'm waiting on these cars to pass by. So, here's the deal. I call myself planning for emergencies. I call myself having a little contingency plan in case things went south. And I had a sizable chunk of money when I started traveling. I started initially traveling around through Colombia about a year and a half ago. Ended up here in Mexico, not by choice, but it wasn't part of the plan. And so I had a chunk of money. I went back, got my kids after visiting Mexico for a short time, and we're gonna stay in Mexico for a while, and then we'll continue to travel. So I had a sizable amount of money. I keep saying that. I know I keep saying that because I'm trying to stress it. I thought I was ready for emergencies. I had a sizable chunk of money just for traveling and living expenses, and I also had some of the emergency funds set aside for any emergencies. Thought that would be enough. And I tell you this because you want to get this right. You don't want to be like me. You get yourself in a bind and you setting up, you asking for donations, for help, you setting up GoFundMe accounts, and that's what I did. You know what I mean? Found myself in the bind. So what ended up happening was, and I'm telling you this because there's just stuff you just can't plan for. And even when you plan for them, things still go south. And I call myself planning for something. So when we got here, we had 2 medical emergencies, totally unpredicted. And then the other medical emergency, third medical emergency, was my daughter getting diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I don't know if y'all know anything about schizophrenia or know anybody with it, but oh my God, it is crazy. Sometimes they get delusions whereby they think somebody's trying to kill them. They're running for their lives. They're trying to, they running, hiding because they think a sniper is trying to come through the window and shoot them. They feel they got worms in their body and they're trying to cut them out. And so we were in the hospital, emergency, all on the regular. Emergency room, ambulance coming to pick her up many times, and being admitted to the hospital daily, seeing doctors daily, calling the doctor every day, trying new medicines to get her schizophrenia under control. So for the whole year, practically, it was just non-stop medical care. And due to some of the delusions, you had to watch it 24/7. And so many times didn't have the time to continue to work to bring in extra income. And so that savings and that money start going away quick. That emergency fund goes out the window. Again, something that you just couldn't prepare for, couldn't predict this coming out the blue. So she's much better now, but hey, it's still it's still a very real issue. As they still try and get this schizophrenia under control. You have to see it to understand it. You have to know someone who has it to understand it. For them, this stuff is real. You hear people running and jumping off a roof thinking they done committed suicide. In reality, they were running for their life thinking somebody was chasing them. I seen my daughter run and hide under the sheets thinking somebody's about to come through the door. And in the moment, it's real. And so that was, again, when you have some emergencies like that just show up out the blue, man, that drains your money. Your resources go quick. So, and then Right after that, while dealing with that, they found a big cyst in her stomach. Had a liter of fluid, and so they had to do emergency surgery. And they took that out, and she lost the ovary. They had to take the ovary as well. And so part of my plan contingency was, if we have an emergency, we'll fly back to the States. But with that, due to the type of emergency she had, the doctor was like, nah, she can't get on the plane. She need to have this done now, stat, immediately. And so again, that idea, for emergencies, we'll fly back to the States, that went out the window. I ended up having a surgery. They ended up finding a big, giant tumor in my neck that had pushed my airway over. I couldn't breathe, going back and forth to the hospital trying to get it figured out, calling 911 to come, but I couldn't breathe, and spending money out my pocket all day trying to get that resolved. They kept saying, it was a panic attack. They couldn't figure it out the first few visits, and going back and forth to the hospital. And then when they finally figured out what it was, I was paying for all these extra tests, scans, and all of that, not thinking that my insurance would cover it. But in the end, a doctor that I talked to, he was like, hey, we'll process your American insurance. We have a hospital in this, we have an office in the States. We'll work with you and get your insurance resolved, work that out. And then only to find out that in the end, the hospital ended up covering it anyway. And but again, that was before spending all this money on all these tests, CT scans and all of that stuff. Same thing with my Haley's thing. We're having all these type of brain scans, CT scans, CAT scans, everything. So in the end, my insurance did cover it. Charlie, you can carry this in. It's kind of heavy. Huh?
Have a key?
Yeah. You're going to have to knock on the door. Sorry, y'all. Hold on one second. Caught up in this rain. So the surgery, the procedures, man, it was just ridiculous. So in the hospital for 7 days, and like I say, all the money I had saved up, it just started getting sucked up. Next thing I know, my daughter's sick, I'm sick, and you start swallowing your pride, and you go online, ask for donations, you ask for help, set up some GoFundMe accounts, because I done ran through all my money. Stuff you just can't predict. So I'm saying this to say, prepare for the worst, and then plan, whatever finances you come up with, do your research, try and calculate for your emergencies, and then probably want to double or triple whatever number you come up with, because whatever you think that number is, it ain't going to be enough. Most folk won't have these types of things like we've had, but I see them, and I see them quite often. Buddy of mine was just in an accident the other day, fell off his bike and injured himself pretty bad. Not real bad, but the ambulance had to be called. They had to haul him off to the emergency room. You know what I mean? And they had to patch him up, stitch him up, etc., etc. You just can't predict what can happen. You know what I mean? Just like we couldn't predict. We could have been better prepared. I could have investigated insurance options a little better. Although, had we even had the local insurance, because I tried to get local insurance, we found out that even with this local insurance, they weren't going to cover her condition, and they weren't going to cover my situation, because they were considered pre-existing conditions. And on top of that, they won't even approve you with schizophrenia, and they weren't going to cover anything related to schizophrenia either. So, even with good planning, good health insurance, still might not be able to cover it. So my insurance, which was under the Obamacare, which, as like I say later on, they did cover my the surgery itself. The Obamacare, through the Affordable Health Care Act, it worked. So I'm saying this now because it's December, near the end of December, and you have a few days to get into that inside that healthcare.gov portal and sign up for some health insurance. And the hospitals here, they like the big three companies, health insurance companies: Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Aetna. So get in there and look at the policies and see if they will cover emergencies in international countries. So there was a clause in my thing that said if I was admitted to a hospital, whether it was domestically in the States or internationally, if I was admitted into the hospital, they would cover it. And that's what happened with me. But the insurance didn't cover the kids. They had a state care. Our state has a particular healthcare system for children, healthcare insurance program for kids. So they were automatically enrolled in that. So that insurance did not carry over and would not cover her surgery. So again, that was monies we had to pay out. So saying all this to say, research your insurance options, see what you can get. If you have good credit, set aside a major credit card, stack your exclusively for medical emergencies. My credit, and I'm again being transparent, my credit ain't great. I'm working on that, rebuilding that now. But if my credit was straight, I would have been able to have some major credit cards with some big limits on it to help during these types of things. But over the years, I hadn't been financially responsible, and so of course credit go down, and so that's where I was at. You know what I mean? So I didn't have that. So if you have good credit, use one of those credit cards or two credit cards to have on reserve for extreme emergencies, because these purchases are real. These costs can be astronomical, and real. They can be big costs. So that's that. So look into that insurance. You got a couple of days before that goes offline and you won't be able to apply. Other thing, residency. Look, when we started traveling, I didn't know we would be here. And again, I'm telling y'all this stuff. You don't want to be on the internet asking folks for donations and help. You can avoid that by planning and doing these things. And again, I'm sharing these things with you because I want you to know they happen. They even with planning, even with coming down here with money, unexpected stuff happen. Emergencies come up that you just can't predict. But you still got to be able to try and figure some things out and minimize. The only advantage I had, I just so happened to be a guy who happened to be on YouTube documenting my journey. And I've been doing this for over 10, 15 years, just highlighting a bunch of stuff in my life. I just had some fans and a following, and I was able to reach out and ask for help. So a lot of y'all may not have that. And it's not a thing you want to rely on. You know, I had to swallow my pride and ask for help and whatnot. And again, I'm sharing my experience so you don't have to deal with this or go through this yourself. So the other thing, residency. Now, when I started traveling about a year and a half ago, I was in Colombia first, trying to work out a scenario where I can get a house there. And my plan was to live in Colombia. Some riots broke out, things turned violent, so I decided, hey, I'm gonna go somewhere else until stuff cool off in Colombia, then I'll come back. So a friend of mine recommended that I come down here, check out Mexico. Steph. Thank you, Steph. Great recommendation. That's why I'm here. And so I came and checked it out, liked the city. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll stay here. And I stayed here for a minute. And then I decided, hey, let me go get my kids. I'm going to bring them back. And, you know, we would hang out here for a while. And then we would travel to several other countries and visit other places, Southeast Asia, Africa, etc., etc. That was the game plan. And but once we got here, decided, hey, we're gonna stay. Kids was like, hey, daddy, let's just stay. I want to do dance, I want to do ballet, I want to go to school, blah 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 blah. So I decided to stay. As a result of that decision, you know, of course, our visas expired. Our visitors visas, FMM, they give you 6 months to stay. And so that expired. That went by quick. So we went and got an extension. And that drug out. It was like a 3-week process just to get that done, and Campeche having to go back and forth because we did it over the Christmas holidays. So I'm saying all of this to say, and so then when we got our extension, then guess what? 6 months went by again. So we're always in limbo because we didn't have our residency. And so we're always having to, a lot of folks make these border runs. They get on the plane, fly somewhere, come back, and making all these border runs, you're in limbo. Them 6 months fly by quick. They fly by fast. As soon as you turn around, 6 months. A lot of folks, they don't mind hopping, which is not difficult if you by yourself. But when you got a family, 3, 4, 5 people got to get on the plane, drove across the border, go to Belize, that becomes tiresome and costly over time. So for the last 18 months, we've been in limbo because, again, we didn't have residency. So fortunately, January 1st coming up in about a week and a half, the word is, according to an immigration attorney who has a contact at immigration, the regularization program will extend into 2022. Well, at least will be extended at least in January coming up. So we'll qualify for that regularization visa, whereby we're not needing any income verification, don't have to prove employment, don't have to go back to the states to start the process for getting residency. We can stay right here and get 4 years and not have to leave. So that's the game plan for us in January, because we will qualify in January. So there's a qualification period. You had to be in Mexico a few times, a couple of entry points, etc., etc. I ain't gonna get into all that. Talk to an immigration attorney to find out the details, because the rules change all the time. So don't be in limbo. When we came here, it was never the plan to stay. But if you think for 1 minute you're gonna be staying or you're gonna be here long term, do the residency paperwork before you leave. You don't want to be in limbo 24/7, bouncing around, trying to figure out being illegal, being in an illegal status because your stuff expired. You don't want that headache. You know what I mean? Take it from me. It's stressful. It ain't fun. Trying to figure this out every 6 months will stress you out. So again, just don't get yourself caught up in that. And so I just wanted to share some stuff that I did, good things and bad things. You just plan for the worst and just hope it don't happen. Pray it don't happen, but plan for the worst. Save more than you think you need. Double it. Double that number. Whatever that number is, double it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying continue to prolong and that you need $100,000 cash when you come down here, but just be mindful that things happen and just be prepared the best way you can. You know what I mean? So I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, 26 years. Have supported my family of 7 for all of the last 20, 25, 26 years. Just with stuff I've been doing online, building websites, building courses online, helping other people start online businesses. I've been able to take care of my family for 26 years doing that. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I've shared this before, the last few years went through a phase of depression. Businesses are making a ton of money, a fortune. And again, in full disclosure, there were some months I was earning $50,000, $60,000 a month. And it doesn't matter how much you make. That was profit. That's what I was taking home. It doesn't matter how much you make. It's how much you keep. I was driving S600 S-Class Mercedes-Benz V12s, big giant house, 7,000 square feet home, just living the life, traveling, vacationing, all of that. Didn't save my money, didn't invest my money, didn't think it would ever end. And that's the biggest mistake. You never think it's gonna end. And ended up dealing with some personal stuff in my life that ended up sending me down a road of depression. And when I went down that road, I didn't work. I couldn't focus. I couldn't do my job. Couldn't do my business. And things just over a period of years, the business still continued to take care of us and sustain us for a few years. But after a few years of neglect, everything started going down slowly and slowly and slowly. You know what I mean? So I'm saying all of this to say that there are a million reasons why folks are in the situation that they're in. But at some point, you got to dig your way out, find your way out. And so for me, my plan was, let's move abroad. It is giving me time. I'm ready mentally to try and start rebuilding what I neglected. Let me cut my costs, let me cut my expenses, let me cut everything by living abroad and kind of reset, start over and rebuild. So that's why we came to Colombia/Mexico. That was the game plan, to rebuild and start over. Because that's what I'm doing, essentially, starting over from scratch. So fortunately, like I said earlier, had a chunk of money and decided that we'll make that move, travel, and live specifically in these cheaper countries, affordable countries, while I rebuild. So it's never too late. You know, if you find yourself in a situation, figure it out. You know, just sit down one day and write out a plan on paper. It don't got to be perfect, but don't just think in your mind. Write it out, come up with some ideas, because me writing this out is what got me here in Mexico, or got me thinking about just living somewhere else where it would be cheaper. So that's all I wanted to share with y'all today. It ain't too late. Always start trying to work on yourself, personal development, mindset, all of that. It's important. I'm finally at a place now mentally where I am back. That drive is back, that entrepreneurial spirit is back, and I'm ready to do some things, you know. So let's work it out. It ain't too late. I'm thinking about starting some kind of group coaching program where because a lot of this stuff is mindset. And, you know, if you're trying to start something, start a business and whatnot, you know, let's figure it out. Because if you're interested in some kind of coaching program, send me an email, Cartess at cartessross.com. As always, I got the email on the screen. Email me if you're interested in that, and I'll work up some details over the next day or two. I've already started kind of breaking it down in my mind, so I'm going to start putting it to paper. So email me. As always, if you find our content helpful, consider making a donation. Information is in the description. If you're looking for remote work so that you can live abroad, because you're going to need some income coming in, visit the website, moveabroadandthrive.com. At the top, click courses, and you'll see some information about remote work. Also, take a look at our academy. Start planning your stages for moving abroad. Same thing, moveabroadandthrive.com. Courses, just click the link that says Academy. And hey, if you need help finding a home, reach out to me.